We welcome dreamers and wanderers to Whispers of Olympus, where the echoes of ancient Greece drift gently into your mind. Here we explore the timeless tales of gods, heroes, and mythical creatures, not to thrill you with battles or fear, but to soothe you with stories as old as the stars. Before we journey into the world of Olympus, don't forget to subscribe and tap the bell so you never miss a quiet adventure into the myths of old. In the age when gods and mortals shared the same skies and the winds whispered secrets of eternity, there was a quiet tension in the realm of Olympus. Zeus, the mighty king of the gods, sat upon his high throne, the golden light of his palace casting soft reflections upon the clouds that swirled beneath him. Even in the splendor of his power, a certain heaviness pressed upon him. He had learned of the fates, of prophecies that lingered like shadows in the corners of his mind. Among them, one prophecy in particular gnawed quietly at his certainty. A child born of his own mind would surpass even him in wisdom and might. Zeus, who had ruled for eons and had seen the rise and fall of gods and mortals alike, felt a mixture of awe and apprehension at the thought. The skies above Olympus were unusually still that day, as if the world itself had paused, waiting for something extraordinary. The birds, normally chattering and singing, hovered silently in the golden light. The rivers and streams below the mountains reflected the calm heavens, untouched by breeze or movement. It was in this profound stillness that Zeus experienced a sudden piercing pain in his head. The pain was not ordinary, it was sharp and insistent, a signal that something monumental was unfolding within him. He clutched his temples, the golden lightning in his hand quivering as if reflecting the inner turmoil of his mind. It was not a cry of fear, but a signal that the threads of fate were weaving something remarkable, something that could not be restrained or delayed. Across Olympus, the other gods felt the shift in the air. Squivide felt the shift in the air. Hera, with her ever-watchful eyes, perceived the tension radiating from Zeus. Even the serene Apollo and the mighty Ares sensed that a singular moment was approaching. The earth itself seemed to tremble softly in anticipation. Trees swayed gently without wind, and animals paused in their motions as if waiting for a story to unfold. Within the palace, Zeus remained seated, though his brow was furrowed, and his thoughts were a storm of expectation and concern. The pain in his head continued to intensify, yet it was accompanied by a strange clarity, a spark of creativity, and wisdom unlike anything he had felt before. Then, as silently as a shadow falling at dusk, it happened. From the depths of Zeus's mind, a spark of life emerged, a consciousness fully formed, brilliant and radiant. There was no birth in the ordinary sense, no cry, no struggle, no tearing from the womb. Instead, Athena simply appeared, a being of perfect symmetry, her eyes bright with intelligence, her armor gleaming with the essence of the sky, and her presence commanding yet serene. She stepped into the world fully grown, each movement precise and purposeful, every gesture imbued with the knowledge of gods and mortals alike. The moment was so profound that even Zeus, mighty though he was, felt a shiver of reverence. Athena's first steps upon the firmament of Olympus were quiet, yet they echoed through the halls of the palace as though the universe itself had taken notice. The soft clinking of her sandals on the marble floor resonated with authority and grace. Her gaze swept across the assembly of gods, who now looked upon her with a mixture of wonder and cautious respect. Hera, her countenance ever composed, allowed a rare smile to touch her lips. Even Ares, whose heart often thrummed with impatience and aggression, felt a strange pause within himself, a momentary suspension of his usual intensity. Apollo, ever attuned to beauty and harmony, sensed the delicate balance of wisdom and strength radiating from Athena, a harmony that seemed to transcend even the most beautiful melodies he could play. Athena's presence was unlike anything Olympus had seen. She carried with her the clarity of thought, the strategic brilliance of a general, and the gentle wisdom of a teacher. She did not demand attention, yet all eyes naturally turned toward her, drawn by a force that was not merely divine but intrinsically compelling. There was a subtle aura around her, a soft light that seemed to hum in the air, brushing gently against every god and goddess in the room. It was as if the world itself recognized the significance of this arrival, and paused in quiet homage. Zeus, still seated on his throne, observed Athena with a mixture of pride and astonishment. The child born from his mind was no ordinary god. She was a being of intellect and strategy, of courage and foresight. He understood that she was destined to shape the stories of mortals and gods alike, to inspire heroes, to guide civilizations, and to illuminate the paths of wisdom wherever darkness might fall. Yet in this recognition was also a trace of unease, for prophecies whispered that her brilliance might one day challenge even his own authority. Still, in that moment, awe and love eclipsed fear. Athena's eyes, sharp yet calm, moved over the marble floors and the halls of Olympus, noticing the subtle details of her surroundings with an almost human curiosity intertwined with divine understanding. She saw the intricate carvings on the pillars, depicting battles and heroic deeds, and she understood them immediately, grasping the lessons and strategies etched into stone. She saw the other gods, each embodying their domains, Hera with her regal composure, Poseidon with his restless energy, and Hermes with his quicksilver movements, and she discerned the essence of their natures without needing them to speak. Every thread of knowledge that she encountered was absorbed and understood with astonishing ease, yet she moved through it all with grace rather than arrogance. Then, as if to announce her arrival to the world below, Athena raised her hand, and a subtle breeze stirred the clouds above Olympus. The mountains shimmered with the reflection of sunlight upon snow, rivers sparkled with renewed brilliance, and even the forests seemed to lean closer, their leaves quivering with quiet admiration. Her voice, when she spoke, was soft but carried weight beyond the reach of ordinary hearing. It was a voice that commanded attention not through volume but through the clarity of its insight. "I am Athena," she said, "a born of thought, yet here to walk among the living and the divine alike. I bring wisdom, strategy, and guidance, that mortals and gods may learn and grow." The other gods listened in rapt attention. Athena did not boast, nor did she seek to assert dominance. Her words were calm, deliberate, and filled with a sense of purpose that was unmistakably her own. Even the mighty Zeus, who had witnessed countless divine acts of power and creation, felt a quiet thrill of wonder. This was no ordinary arrival. Athena was a goddess who carried the potential to shape destinies, to teach and to inspire. Yet she did so with gentleness rather than force, with understanding rather than fear. Athena's first act, after greeting her divine kin, was to take up a shield and a spear, not as weapons of conquest, but as symbols of her readiness to protect knowledge and guide those who sought wisdom. Her armor, gleaming with a soft light, reflected not arrogance but clarity, and her helmet rested lightly upon her brow, a crown not of domination but of insight. She moved among the gods, offering counsel with quiet authority, pointing out strategies in battles, resolving disputes, and suggesting solutions to challenges that had long perplexed even the wisest of the Olympians. Zeus sat upon his throne, the weight of eternity resting upon his shoulders. He was no stranger to the machinations of fate. He had shaped destinies and witnessed the rise and fall of empires. Yet within the depths of his mind, a peculiar stir began to take form, a sensation sharp, insistent, and utterly extraordinary. It was as if the threads of thought themselves had taken on life, weaving a tapestry of possibility and promise that could not be contained. This was not merely inspiration or foresight. It was something more profound, creation forming from the very essence of his intellect. Hera, seated nearby with the serene composure of her royalty, observed the tension radiating from Zeus. Even Apollo, the god of music and light, whose senses caught the subtlest harmonies in the world, paused mid-strum upon his lyre, feeling the note of a story yet to be sung. And then the pain began, not a cry of agony, but a sharp, insistent pressure in Zeus's head, deep and all-encompassing. It was as if the universe itself had pushed a spark of life into his consciousness, a spark that demanded recognition. He gripped his golden scepter not in fear but as an anchor, as the currents of creation surged within him. The lightning he held quivered, tiny arcs tracing across his hands, reflecting the intensity of this moment. Every thought he had ever had, every plan, every memory, Every fragment of knowledge coalesced into a single point of focus, a singular creation. Then, as silently and effortlessly as the first breath of dawn across the horizon, she emerged. Athena. She appeared fully grown, radiant, her armor shimmering with a light that was neither harsh nor blinding, but calm and illuminating. Her eyes, clear and perceptive, held the wisdom of centuries yet to come. She stepped onto the marble floor of Olympus with grace, each movement deliberate, embodying both the serenity of a scholar and the readiness of a warrior. This was no ordinary birth. There had been no labor, no struggle, no cry piercing the heavens. Athena simply existed complete in form, mind, and purpose, as if she had always been part of the universe, waiting only for the right moment to reveal herself. The other gods watched in astonishment. Hera allowed a rare, approving smile to touch her lips, recognizing not just a new deity, but a presence that would bring balance and insight to Olympus. Ares, ever restless and quick to anger, felt a pause within himself, a momentary suspension of his fierce impulses in the presence of such precise power. Apollo, ever attuned to the beauty of the cosmos, felt a harmony in her aura that resonated like a perfect chord, filling the halls with subtle music, even in silence. Quick-footed and mischievous paused mid-step, acknowledging the brilliance of a mind that could outrun even his cleverest schemes. Even Poseidon, ruler of the restless seas, felt the calm of her arrival ripple through him, an undercurrent of order in a world of perpetual motion. Athena's gaze swept across Olympus, not with arrogance or pride, but with quiet observation. She absorbed every detail, the patterns etched in marble, the subtle gestures of her divine siblings, the interplay of light across the golden hallways. In that gaze was an understanding deeper than any casual glance could convey. She perceived strategies, histories, and possibilities in a single moment, a mind sharpened to comprehend complexity without hate. And yet, there was gentleness in her presence, a softness that made the other gods feel her wisdom rather than fear it. Zeus, watching from his throne, felt both pride and a gentle trepidation. The child born from his own mind was extraordinary beyond any measure. He understood that she would shape the fates of mortals and gods alike, inspiring heroes, guiding civilizations, and illuminating paths with insight and strategy. And yet there was also a quiet reminder of prophecy, a whisper that one day her brilliance might rival even his own authority. Still, in that moment, reverence overshadowed concern. Athena's first steps beyond her birth were deliberate, measured, and purposeful. She took up a shield and spear, not in haste or aggression, but as symbols of readiness, as if to say that knowledge and strength could exist in harmony. The shield gleamed with subtle light, reflecting her calm determination, and the spear, though sharp, seemed a tool of guidance rather than violence. She moved among the gods, offering insight where discord lingered, resolving disputes not through force, but through strategy and reason. Her presence began to reshape Olympus subtly yet profoundly. Conflicts softened, tempers balanced, and even the most headstrong deities found themselves listening with newfound patience. Days turned into weeks, and Athena's influence began to extend beyond Olympus, reaching into the lives of mortals below. Heroes in distant lands, facing trials that seemed insurmountable, suddenly found courage when hope was scarce. Inventors, poets, and thinkers felt inspiration bloom within their minds as if a gentle hand had touched their thoughts, guiding them toward clarity. Cities flourished quietly, their leaders finding wisdom in decisions that would otherwise have led to chaos. Though mortals did not see her directly, her presence was everywhere, like sunlight filtering softly through clouds, illuminating the paths of those willing to listen and learn. In Olympus, her impact was just as profound. She became a mediator, a strategist, guide. Her counsel helped gods navigate disputes, find creative solutions, and even reconsider ancient rivalries. She did not dominate or command, but she shaped the environment with subtle authority, the kind that comes from undeniable insight and calm confidence. The presence of Athena reminded all that wisdom could be as powerful as strength, that patience could be a mightier tool than impulse, and that thoughtfulness could illuminate paths unseen by even the most powerful. Even the natural world seemed to respond to her emergence. The forests whispered in approval as soft winds carried the scent of olives and pines. Rivers shimmered more brightly in the sunlight, reflecting a clarity that had not existed before. Birds sang in tones softer and more harmonious, and even the mountains seemed to stand taller, as if to honor her presence. She was not only a force of divine intellect, but a harmonizer of the world, a reminder that balance, insight, and strategy are as essential as power and speed. Athena's early deeds among mortals became legends of quiet heroism. She taught leaders how to govern justly, inspired inventors to create tools that changed lives, and guided warriors to fight not out of rage but with honor and strategy. Her influence was subtle, often appearing in dreams, whispers, or sudden moments of clarity. Yet it was unmistakable in its effect. Civilizations grew stronger, wiser, and more harmonious under her unseen hand, a testament to the quiet power of intellect and foresight. Through all this, Athena herself remained composed. She carried the weight of her birth, the awareness of her extraordinary mind, with humility. She did not boast, nor did she flaunt her power. Instead, she walked the delicate line between divine authority and empathetic guidance, reminding both gods and mortals that the true measure of strength lies not in domination, but in wisdom applied with discernment and care. Even Zeus, the king of gods who had created her from his own mind, marveled at her continued growth. Athena's brilliance did not overshadow him. Rather, it enhanced the harmony of Olympus. She became a partner in strategy, a counselor in diplomacy, a silent force ensuring that the world below and the realm above were guided with reason and insight. And in moments of quiet reflection, Zeus could see the beauty of the prophecy fulfilled, not in fear of being surpassed, but in the recognition that greatness could be born gently, thoughtfully, and fully realized. As centuries passed, the story of Athena's birth remained a tale of quiet wonder. Mortals remembered her as the goddess of wisdom, strategy, and courage, protector of cities and guide of heroes. Yet the essence of her being, the serene, fully formed presence born from thought itself, remained constant. She was a beacon, a whisper of insight, and a reminder that even in the loudest, most turbulent worlds, calm wisdom endures. Her story is a meditation on the power of mind and reason, a gentle illustration of how intelligence and foresight can shape destiny without force or fear. Athena's presence rippled through history, touching the hearts and minds of mortals and immortals alike. In every act of courage guided by reason, in every decision made with clarity, in every invention or strategy inspired by insight, Athena's influence endured. She had been born of thought, yet she shaped the living world in ways that even the gods could scarcely anticipate. And so, the birth of Athena is remembered not as an explosive or chaotic event, but as a quiet miracle. Fully realized goddess emerging from the mind of Zeus, radiant, wise, and serene. Her presence continues to illuminate minds and hearts, a testament to the enduring power of wisdom, patience, and insight. In every whisper of guidance, every soft nudge of inspiration, and every moment of clarity, the echoes of Athena remind us that greatness can be born silently, fully formed and eternal, like a star rising gently into the night sky, shining with calm brilliance across the ages. In the Golden Age, when gods wandered freely among the hills and forests of the world, and the rivers sang their own timeless songs, Apollo, the radiant god of the sun, music, and prophecy, moved through the earth with a grace that reflected his eternal beauty. He was the embodiment of light and energy, his hair glowing like threads of gold in the sun, his lyre resting lightly in his hands, fingers ready to summon melodies that could soothe hearts or ignite passion. Yet, even a god of such perfection was not immune to the whims of desire, the caprices of love, or the subtle currents of fate that flowed unseen beneath the earth and sky. The story begins in a forest where sunlight poured through the leaves, dappled and warm, illuminating the soft earth with golden patterns. Birds sang in quiet harmonies, their melodies weaving with the gentle rustle of the tree. It was in this forest that Daphne, a nymph beloved by the river gods, wandered, Her steps were light upon the ground, a whisper among the grass, and her hair, dark and flowing, seemed to capture the shadowed hues of the woods. Daphne's beauty was unlike any other, not merely in appearance but in the serene purity of her presence. She was untouched by the desires of mortals or gods, devoted entirely to the freedom of the forest and the quiet rhythm of nature. She moved with the grace of the wind itself, her thoughts as untamed and free as the streams that wove through her woodland home. One day Apollo, striding through the earth in radiant splendor, noticed Daphne as she wandered beneath the trees. His gaze, drawn irresistibly by her beauty and purity, lingered longer than was prudent, and in that instant something stirred in the god's heart. It was a longing, sudden and consuming, an ache that spoke of desire and admiration intertwined with a deep, almost reverent fascination. Apollo approached, each step measured, yet his presence radiated a warmth that caused the leaves to tremble and the birds to fall silent. He wished to speak, to claim her attention, to share the brilliance of his being with hers. But Daphne, oblivious to his gaze, moved with the gentle rhythms of the forest, unaware of the god's fascination. The subtle tension between them grew, for Daphne's heart was untouched by romantic longing, her spirit devoted to the life of the woods and the harmony of nature. She loved the trees and the streams, the whispering winds and the songs of the birds, and she wished for nothing more than to wander freely beneath the sun and the shadows. Apollo, in his radiance, could not comprehend a desire that did not turn toward him, a freedom he did not own. And so began the dance of pursuit, quiet yet insistent, gentle yet tinged with the restless energy of divine desire. Apollo's attempts were not harsh. He did not chase with violence or anger. Instead, he moved like sunlight through the leaves, weaving around her movements, praising her virtues in tones soft enough to blend with the rustling foliage. "Good fair, Daphne," he whispered, his voice carrying the warmth of midday. "You are as radiant as the forest itself, untouched, unbroken, the very spirit of life and freedom. Why do you flee from the light of admiration I offer? Why deny me the joy of sharing the world with you?" Daphne's response was not cruel, but resolute. She shook her head gently, her eyes reflecting the deep green of the forest. "I am bound to the woods, to the rivers, to the freedom that flows through them," she said softly, each word deliberate. "We seek no adornment, no companionship beyond what the wind and the trees give me. My heart belongs to the untamed earth, and I wish not to be possessed, even by the radiance of gods." Apollo's longing deepened, yet in the quiet of the forest, even his desire softened into admiration for her steadfastness. He followed her, not with anger or force, but with the gentle persistence of a light that will not be denied, hoping, wishing, and yearning, all while respecting the grace and will of the one he adored. Each moment he spent near her was a lesson in patience, a meditation in the art of approaching the unattainable, and a reminder that even gods could feel vulnerability when faced with purity, unspoiled by their influence. Yet the gods who delight in mischief and the shaping of destinies were not idle. Eros, the mischievous god of love, noticed Apollo's infatuation and Daphne's resistance. With a bow of gold and a quiver of arrows, Eros intervened, shooting 2 arrows, one of intense desire for Apollo and one of indifference for Daphne. The magic of these arrows was subtle but inexorable, bending the wills of those touched by them without overt force. Apollo's heart, already aflame, blazed brighter, a sun within a god, while Daphne's heart recoiled from any thought of surrender, her spirit tightening like the spring of a bow, drawing her away from the warmth of Apollo's gaze. The chase continued through forests and glades, through the gentle murmur of streams and the quiet rustle of leaves. Daphne's feet barely touched the ground, moving as if the forest itself guided her path. Apollo followed, not with aggression but with the relentless brilliance of sunlight streaming through the trees, his voice calling her name like a soft hymn carried on the wind. The forest, too, seemed to participate in the unfolding drama. Branches bent to shield her, streams whispered directions, and the leaves shivered with the passing of divine presence. As the pursuit stretched on, Daphne's fear and determination intensified. She prayed to her father, the river god Peneus, for deliverance, for a way to remain true to her freedom. and avoid the overpowering desire of the god who followed her. The river god, hearing her cries and understanding the purity of her intent, responded not with confrontation, but with transformation. As Apollo closed in, his light illuminating her path in her desperation, Daphne felt her body begin to change, slowly, impossibly. Her feet became rooted to the earth, her skin roughening and bark-like, her arms stretching upward into delicate branches, and her hair transforming into the deep green leaves of a tree. She became, in a final, gentle miracle, the laurel tree. Apollo reached her just as the transformation completed, and though he could no longer touch her as he had once intended, he was not filled with anger or despair. Instead, he felt reverence. The laurel, bending slightly in the wind, seemed to acknowledge him without words. He understood that her spirit had not been defeated, but had endured and transformed in harmony with the will of the gods and the pulse of nature itself. Her freedom was preserved, and her essence remained untamed. Yet now Apollo had a symbol of his longing, a reminder of both the beauty of pursuit and the necessity of respect for the will of others. From that day forward, the laurel tree became sacred to Apollo. Its leaves, evergreen and vibrant, symbolized eternal honor, purity, and the gentle balance between desire and restraint. Victors in contests of skill and music were crowned with laurel wreaths, carrying with them the story of the chase, the transformation, and the enduring respect between divine longing and mortal, or nymph, freedom. The wind through the laurel leaves whispered softly, a gentle echo of Daphne's spirit, a song that mingled with the melodies Apollo played upon his lyre, a reminder that even in longing and desire, there can be respect, reverence, and beauty. The forest, too, remembered. Each river, each glade, each quiet path bore the imprint of that encounter, a tale carried through the murmurs of leaves and the murmur of stream. Mortals, hearing of Daphne and Apollo, told stories not of conquest, but of admiration and transformation, teaching that love is not always possession, that desire must sometimes bow to freedom, and that the gentlest of miracles can arise from the most insistent of pursuits. Apollo, for his part, continued to shine, continued to move through the world with radiant energy, but he did so with a deeper understanding. Desire was not merely to be acted upon, but to be tempered with patience and reverence. In every strum of his lyre, every song that drifted across mountains and seas, one could hear the quiet echo of Daphne, the soft rustle of leaves, the whisper of the laurel, and the lesson that beauty and spirit are not to be possessed, only admired and honored. Thus the tale of Apollo and Daphne endures, a story of longing and restraint, of transformation and eternal reverence. The gentle laurel tree stands as a symbol of their story, its branches whispering softly in the wind, a reminder that even in desire, there is space for freedom, that transformation can preserve essence, and that the world, in its quiet ways, carries the echoes of divine love and the enduring spirit of those who remain true to themselves. In the dance of sunlight and shadow, of pursuit and escape, one finds a meditation on balance, a quiet story that drifts through time, carried by winds, rivers, and the music of the gods. Apollo's heart, though ever radiant, learned patience. Daphne's spirit, though transformed, remained untamed. And in every whisper of the laurel trees, one can hear the soft, enduring song of that moment, a story of longing, transformation, and the gentle beauty of respecting the freedom of others, even in the face of desire. In the time when gods walked freely upon the earth and mortals lived under the watchful gaze of the divine, the world was alive with light, sound, and the quiet rhythm of nature. The forest whispered secrets that only those who listened carefully could hear. The rivers murmured timeless songs as they flowed, and the mountains stood as silent witnesses to the unfolding of both mortal and immortal lives. It was in such a world where the ordinary intertwined seamlessly with the extraordinary that the story of Apollo and Daphne began, a tale of longing, transformation, and the subtle, gentle voice of the laurel trees that would echo across generations. Apollo, the radiant god of the sun, music, prophecy, and healing, moved through this world as if it had been created for his glory alone. Every step he took illuminated the earth. Every note from his lyre carried both beauty and a faint warmth that made the air shimmer. warmth. His hair, like threads of gold, caught the sunlight, scattering brilliance across the leaves of the forests he traversed. Mortals who caught a glimpse of him whispered prayers, awed by his majesty, and even the other gods recognized in him a perfection that seemed beyond reach. Yet Apollo, for all his radiance, was not untouched by desire, nor immune to the tender pangs of longing that the heart, divine or mortal, could experience. It was in a forest, dense and ancient, where sunlight filtered through layers of green and soft golden shards, that Daphne, a nymph of extraordinary beauty and untamed spirit, wandered. She moved as if she were part of the very earth itself, each step light and deliberate, barely leaving a mark on the soft moss and leaves that covered the ground. Her dark hair flowed behind her like a river of shadows, and her eyes mirrored the depth of the glades and streams she so cherished. Daphne was devoted to the freedom of the forest, to the life of nature in its purest form. She sought nothing from mortals or gods. Adornment and no praise, no possession, only the gentle, unbroken rhythm of the natural world, of wind through leaves, of sunlight on water, of the quiet music of life itself. Apollo, walking through the forest with a mind as brilliant as his radiant form, saw Daphne as she moved among the trees, and in that moment, a longing unlike any he had felt before took root in his heart. It was not merely admiration for beauty, but a deep, consuming desire mingled with awe. He wished to speak to her, to hold her attention, to share his light with her, and yet there was something in her presence that commanded a respect he had not anticipated. She was untamed, unyielding, and wholly devoted to her own spirit, and that very independence only made Apollo's fascination stronger. He approached gently, his golden steps scattering light across the forest floor, his lyre resting lightly in his hands. "Daphne," he called softly, his voice like sunlight on still water, "you move through this world with a grace that surpasses all I have known. Your spirit is free, and your beauty is radiant. Why do you flee from my admiration? Why do you deny the warmth I offer?" Daphne's eyes, calm yet unwavering, met his gaze with a firmness that mirrored the strength of the trees around her. "I belong to the forest, to the streams and the winds," she replied, her voice as soft as the rustle of leaves. "We seek nothing beyond this freedom, and I wish not to be possessed, not even by a god. My life is bound to the earth and the currents of nature, and there I shall remain untouched." Apollo's heart, alight with longing, beat faster. He did not advance with force or aggression. Rather, he followed her movements with the gentle insistence of light itself, streaming across the forest in pursuit. He moved like sunlight filtering through leaves, seeking to illuminate her world without extinguishing her freedom. And yet the goddess of love, Eros, noticed this unfolding drama and chose to intervene. With a mischievous bow of golden arrows tipped with subtle magic, Eros struck both the pursuer and the pursued. Apollo with an arrow that ignited his desire to impossible heights, and Daphne with one that deepened her resistance, her heart recoiling from the notion of surrender. Thus the chase began, a pursuit marked not by violence, but by tension, beauty, and the delicate interplay of freedom and longing. The forest itself seemed to respond to their movements. Branches arched to guide or shield Daphne, streams whispered her directions, and leaves rustled with the passage of a god's light. Apollo, despite his brilliance, moved with patience and reverence, for he understood in some quiet corner of his consciousness that true love is never forced. It is pursued, perhaps, but always with respect, with an understanding of the other's will. Hours passed, or perhaps it was days, for time moved differently beneath the trees where gods and nymphs danced through destiny. Daphne's footsteps were swift, light, and unerring, guided by her own connection to the earth. Apollo's presence was constant yet gentle, radiating warmth and admiration, his voice a soft song that mingled with the forest's music. "Daphne," he called again, his voice like a harp string vibrating in sunlight. "The world is vast, yet I cannot imagine it without you. Let me walk beside you. Let me honor your spirit with the light I bring. You need not fear me. I seek only to admire and protect." Daphne, unwavering, replied, "Your light is beautiful, Apollo, but it is not mine to follow. My path is of my choosing, and it does not bend to the desires of gods or men. I am of the forest, and there I shall remain." The forest seemed to pulse with her resolve, with the quiet strength of a spirit devoted entirely to freedom. Yet Apollo's desire did not waver. It shimmered and flared, a force as inevitable as the sun rising, but softened by reverence and admiration. The chase became a delicate interplay, a silent conversation between desire and freedom, light and shadow, pursuit and restraint. At last, Daphne's plea reached her father, the river god Peneus, who had watched over his daughter with quiet vigilance. Hearing her call for protection, he moved not with confrontation, but with transformative grace. As Apollo's golden light approached, Daphne felt herself changing, slowly, at first. Her feet rooted themselves into the earth, her limbs elongated and hardened into branches, and her skin became the rough yet supple bark of a tree. Leaves unfurled where hair had been, delicate yet strong, catching the sunlight and shimmering with a gentle green glow. She became the laurel tree, rooted and free, her essence preserved even as her form transformed. Yet rather than frustration or anger, he felt reverence, understanding that Daphne's choice had not diminished her, nor had it diminished his admiration. Her spirit remained untamed, her freedom intact, and in that permanence, he found something more profound than possession or conquest. He found honor, respect, and eternal inspiration. From that moment, the laurel tree became sacred to Apollo. Its leaves, vibrant and evergreen, were emblems of eternal honor, purity, and the delicate balance between desire and freedom. Victors in competitions of music, poetry, and war were crowned with laurel wreaths, soft yet powerful reminder of Daphne's enduring spirit and Apollo's transformation through admiration tempered by reverence. The leaves whispered with the wind, carrying Daphne's essence, mingling with Apollo's music, creating a harmony that echoed through forests, mountains, and cities alike. The forest, rivers, and hills remembered the encounter. Every glade bore the subtle imprint of their meeting, every stream carried the soft murmur of divine longing, and every breeze that rustled through the laurel leaves seemed to carry a lesson, that love and desire are not merely to be acted upon, but to be approached with patience, understanding, and respect for the other's will. Mortals, hearing the story, learned it not of conquest, but of admiration and restraint, of transformation and the enduring power of freedom. Apollo, radiant yet tempered by experience, continued to move through the world, illuminating mortals and inspiring musicians, poets, and heroes. Every note from his lyre, every ray of sunlight that touched the earth, carried the gentle echo of Daphne, the laurel tree, and the lesson that beauty and spirit must be honored rather than possessed. Daphne, though transformed, remained a living symbol of resistance and purity, her branches swaying gently in the wind, whispering her story to those who cared to listen. And so, the tale of Apollo and Daphne endures, a story of longing tempered by respect, of transformation that preserves essence, and of freedom honored above desire. In the gentle rustle of laurel leaves, in the soft glow of sunlight filtering through forests, and in the quiet music that drifts across mountains and rivers, one can hear the eternal whisper of their story, a meditation on love, restraint, admiration, and the enduring power of the natural world and the spirits who inhabit it. In every hero who strives with wisdom rather than force, in every artist inspired by beauty rather than possession, and in every moment of reflection when desire meets reverence, the echoes of Apollo and Daphne endure. The laurel stands as a reminder that longing can be gentle, pursuit can be respectful, and transformation can be both protective and beautiful. The song of the forest, the shimmer of the sun, and the whisper of the leaves all carry their story, a timeless meditation on love, freedom, and the delicate harmony of the world. In the quiet hours when the world seems suspended between wakefulness and dreams, when the stars shine like scattered lanterns across the velvet sky, for us, the velvet sky, there exists a subtle presence that glides across the cosmos, unseen by most mortals, but felt in the gentle stir of night air. Hermes, the messenger of the gods, the guide of travelers, and the bringer of dreams, moves with a lightness that defies the weight of the world. His sandals, winged and swift, barely touch the earth, leaving traces of soft energy in his wake. He is a figure of mischief and wit, yet beneath that playful exterior lies a profound awareness of the delicate threads that connect the realms of gods and mortals, waking and sleeping, reality and imagination. Hermes was born under extraordinary circumstances. From the moment of his arrival into the world, he displayed a cunning and cleverness unmatched even by the most seasoned immortals. His mother, Maya, resided in a secluded grotto upon Mount Serene, a place where sunlight filtered through thick foliage and streams trickled quietly over smooth stones. From the very first moments of life, Hermes demonstrated a curiosity and energy that surpassed all expectations. He laughed softly to himself, already aware of the possibilities of the world, the patterns of behavior, the hidden desires of gods and men alike. By the end of his very first day, Hermes had slipped from his mother's arms and wandered into the wider world, guided by instinct, mischief, and the curiosity of a mind unburdened by restraint. He discovered animals, birds, and the quiet corners of the forest that even seasoned mortals rarely noticed. He learned to move silently, to hide in shadows, to listen and observe without being seen. By nightfall, he had already begun to experiment with objects left by the gods, discovering the secrets of strings, reeds, and the subtle magic hidden within the simplest things. He created his first lyre from the shell of a tortoise, plucking strings and listening to the soft resonance that would eventually carry across the heavens as melodies of both mischief and serenity. The early days of Hermes' life were marked by discovery and cunning, for even the gods themselves marveled at his ingenuity. On one occasion, he stole the cattle of Apollo, the radiant god of the sun, not out of malice, but as a playful test of skill, cleverness, and daring. He led them backward so their footprints confused the morning light, moved them silently through valleys and streams, and hid them in a place that only he could perceive. When Apollo discovered the theft, his initial anger softened into amusement and admiration as Hermes, barely a newborn, revealed the depth of his wit and intelligence. Through this playful act, Hermes established his reputation as a god who could navigate the worlds of mortals and immortals with ease, a master of cunning, charm, and subtlety. Yet Hermes' abilities extended beyond the material world. He became the messenger of dreams, a guide for souls traveling through the landscapes of sleep, and a traveler between realms that were otherwise inaccessible. Each night, as mortals closed their eyes and drifted into slumber, Hermes would slip softly into their consciousness, moving as lightly as a shadow across the moonlit earth. He carried messages from gods, visions of future possibilities, and gentle nudges to those who sought inspiration, creativity, or comfort. His steps were so soft that the grass beneath him did not bend, the wind barely stirred, and the rivers whispered only faintly of his passage. Dreams, whether vivid or fleeting, were shaped by his subtle hand, infused with guidance, warning, or gentle mischief, depending on what the sleeper needed. Hermes' work as the messenger of dreams required an exquisite balance of observation, empathy, and lightness. He had to understand the deepest desires, fears, and hidden potentials of mortals, to guide without intruding, to influence without dominating. Each dream was a delicate tapestry woven from memory, imagination, and divine suggestion. Sometimes he would nudge a poet toward a sudden line of verse, or inspire a lost traveler to find the path home. Other times he would introduce fleeting images of gods, landscapes, or possibilities that the sleeper might never fully comprehend, but that would linger in the mind, shaping thoughts and choices in subtle, unseen ways. The night sky became his domain, a vast expanse in which he moved freely and silently. Stars glittered like the tips of his own sandals, each step leaving ripples of soft light that faded quickly, leaving only the gentle memory of motion. The moon, watching with pale curiosity, seemed to bend her light around him, illuminating his path without revealing the full brilliance of his presence. He traversed mountains and valleys, cities and forests, rivers and seas, leaving traces of his subtle influence behind him. Mortals sometimes sensed a presence at the edge of awareness, a fleeting sense of being observed, guided, or touched by a force that was neither threatening nor fully comprehensible. Hermes' mischief was never cruel. It was playful, inventive, and often instructive. He might rearrange objects in a room to awaken curiosity, whisper unexpected ideas to those lost in thought, or create subtle paradoxes that prompted reflection and discovery. In his wanderings, he delighted in the tiny details, the way moonlight filtered through leaves, the ripple of water when touched by a soft breeze, the quiet coo of owls in hidden glades. These small observations, unnoticed by mortals, informed his guidance, his messages, and the dreams he crafted. His wit was both playful and profound, capable of teaching lessons as lightly as a whisper, often leaving the dreamer unaware of the divine hand that had touched their night. One night, as Hermes glided across the sky, he noticed a mortal, a young scholar sitting beneath an olive tree, struggling with questions of the heart and mind. The scholar's thoughts were tangled, caught between desire, doubt, and curiosity. Hermes approached, unseen but aware of the patterns of emotion and thought that flowed through the human mind. He introduced visions, soft, luminous shapes that danced across the dreamscape. Shadows of possibilities appeared, subtle guidance that illuminated choices without forcing them. The scholar awoke at dawn with a sudden clarity, the tangle of confusion gently unwound, as if some invisible hand had smoothed the threads of his life while he slept. Yet the scholar would never know that it was Hermes who had visited, shaping not only dreams but the very trajectory of thought and action. Hermes' role extended beyond mere guidance. He was also a protector of travelers, souls, and messengers. He guided those crossing boundaries, between cities, rivers, and mountains, and even between life and death. In the quiet of the night, when fear might creep into the hearts of mortals, he would pass like a soft breeze, unseen but deeply felt. Travelers often credited luck or intuition for their safe passage, but in truth, it was Hermes' careful attention, his steps so light that they left no trace, that ensured safety. His duality, mischief and guidance, lightness and vigilance, allowed him to influence the world without disturbing its natural rhythm, leaving mortals to believe in chance, intuition, or fortune while he worked tirelessly behind the scenes. The wings upon his sandals became a symbol of his fluid movement, both literal and metaphorical. With them, he could cross distances impossible for mortals, move between the realms of gods and men, and navigate the dreamscapes of sleeping minds. His speed was not merely physical, it was also the velocity of thought, the flow of insight, and the gentle spark of inspiration that ignites without notice. In every culture, in every story of travelers guided by sudden intuition or poets inspired in sleep, the unseen hand of Hermes moved delicately, ensuring that balance, knowledge, and inspiration could flourish. Despite his playful nature, Hermes also carried great responsibility. Dreams could inspire or mislead, visions could illuminate or confuse, and the path of a mortal, if left unchecked, could spiral into unforeseen consequences. Hermes understood the delicate weight of these interactions. He moved with care, adjusting the tiniest threads, weaving messages that could ripple across days, months, and years. Mortals often dismissed dreams as mere illusions, yet their subconscious absorbed the guidance, shaping choices, actions, and reflections. Hermes' influence was subtle but enduring, a quiet testament to the unseen architecture of fate. Sometimes Hermes delighted in blending mischief with meaningful guidance. A traveler might wake to find their path altered in minor ways. A lantern slightly shifted, a door opened, a hidden note discovered. The changes seemed trivial, almost accidental, yet they often led to significant outcomes. Similarly, a dreamer might experience a sudden flash of insight that seemed inexplicable, yet it carried within it the wisdom and playful guidance of the messenger of dreams. In all these acts, Hermes' touch was delicate, leaving space for free will, preserving the integrity of choice while gently nudging the world toward harmony and understanding. Hermes' movement across the night sky was like a dance, a rhythm of lightness and awareness. The stars, the moon, the clouds, they all became part of his canvas, and he painted subtle impressions upon the minds of mortals and gods alike. Sometimes he would whisper warnings, other times inspiration, and still others, soft lessons wrapped in playful riddles that required reflection to fully understand. His footprints were invisible, yet they left lasting impressions on the tapestry of life, weaving together destiny, insight, and mischief with effortless grace. Mortals who sensed his presence often felt a gentle thrill, a subtle sense that the night had carried a secret blessing or a touch of insight. Poets awoke with verses in their minds they had not consciously composed. Scholars experienced sudden clarity that guided them to discoveries. Travelers found their paths illuminated in ways that seemed like luck or intuition, yet were in truth the careful, playful work of Hermes. In every instance, he acted with precision, ensuring that the beauty of freedom and the joy of discovery were preserved, while his influence remained hidden in plain sight. Hermes' domain was vast, stretching from the quiet corners of forests and villages to the high peaks of mountains and the glimmering streets of cities. He moved effortlessly between worlds, unseen, yet deeply influential. His mischief was always tempered by wisdom, and his guidance carried a subtle weight that shaped mortal and divine affairs alike. Each dream, each whispered suggestion, each careful nudge through the night became part of the vast symphony of his work. A symphony heard not with ears, but felt with the heart and mind. In the gentle hours before dawn, when the world teetered between night and day, Hermes' presence became most apparent. The winds carried the faintest echo of his laughter. The rustle of leaves seemed imbued with intention, and the early light touched minds and hearts with flashes of clarity. Mortals awoke with a lingering sense of possibility, of inspiration, of subtle guidance that seemed almost like magic. It was the soft, enduring work of Hermes, the messenger of dreams, whose footsteps across the night sky left an indelible mark on the world. Hermes' story is one of duality, mischief and wisdom, lightness and profound responsibility, playfulness and deep understanding. He teaches that influence can be gentle, guidance subtle, and the unseen forces shaping life often operate through quiet, imperceptible actions. In every dream, in every moment of sudden insight, in every brush of intuition that guides a soul or sparks creativity, Hermes' presence endures. He reminds mortals and gods alike that the world is full of possibilities, that freedom and choice coexist with guidance, and that even the quietest, softest footsteps can leave ripples across the fabric of existence. Through his laughter, his cunning, his subtle hand in dreams and journeys, Hermes endures as a reminder of the beauty of wit, the joy of mischief, and the profound power of guidance delivered with care. Each night as the stars shine and the moon drifts across the sky, he moves softly among the sleeping, shaping destinies, inspiring hearts and whispering across the universe, a messenger whose work is eternal, subtle, and endlessly wondrous. Mortals often felt a subtle presence, a whisper of intuition, a fleeting sense of being guided, unaware that it was Hermes who moved invisibly among them. Hermes' work required delicate balance, observation, and empathy. He had to perceive the desires, fears, and hidden potentials of mortals without disturbing their free will. One night he observed a young poet struggling beneath the moonlight, words trapped in his mind, inspiration fleeting. Hermes approached with silent grace, introducing visions in the poet's dreams, faint images of melody, patterns of verse, and fleeting ideas that seemed to arrive by chance. The poet awoke at dawn with clarity, a sudden surge of inspiration that would shape his compositions, unaware of the divine hand that had guided his mind while he slept. On another night, Hermes guided a lost traveler through dark forests and twisting paths. The traveler, disoriented and fearful, felt the subtle presence of someone or something, watching, whispering, guiding. The wind shifted, illuminating a faint trail. The moonlight seemed to fall just where it was needed, and intuition nudged the traveler in the correct direction. In truth, Hermes' soft footsteps had led the way, ensuring safety without interference, preserving both the integrity of the journey and the freedom of choice. Even among gods, Hermes' talents were celebrated. He delivered messages between deities, carried tidings of warning or celebration, and navigated disputes with diplomacy and humor. He was a master of communication, using wit and insight to influence outcomes without force. Mischief for him was never cruel. It was a way to teach, to reveal hidden truths, and to remind mortals and gods alike that intelligence, subtlety, and playfulness could shape the world as profoundly as power or strength. The forest, rivers, mountains, and seas all bore witness to Hermes' passage. Leaves rustled as he passed, waters shimmered, and even the night wind carried the faintest echo of his laughter. Mortals sensing these signs felt fleeting inspiration, intuition, or guidance. Some awoke with sudden understanding, others with the urge to create, to explore, or to solve a problem that had confounded them. Each small act of guidance was carefully calibrated, ensuring that destiny was influenced without coercion, that free will remained intact, and that beauty and learning could flourish. As he moved, Hermes observed the minutiae of the world with attentiveness and curiosity. He noted how the moonlight touched the tops of hills, how a river reflected the stars, how a bird's song blended with the rustle of leaves. These small observations informed the guidance he provided. Dreams were crafted with attention to the smallest detail, subtlety woven into every image, every sound, every whisper. Through these quiet interventions, he shaped not only sleep but the waking world, leaving enduring ripples in thought, emotion, and action. Hermes' wings were not merely instruments of speed. They were extensions of his awareness and connection to the cosmos. With them, he could traverse immense distances in moments, enter the realms of the dead, or weave between the divine and mortal planes. His movement was fluid, like a river of air, swift yet silent, a dance of light and shadow across the night sky. Mortals who glimpsed fleeting movement or felt intuition understood only that fortune or inspiration had visited them, never realizing the careful guidance of Hermes, the subtle work of a god shaping destiny with light steps and gentle hands. Occasionally, Hermes delighted in playful interventions. A scholar might awaken to find books rearranged in ways that sparked new connections. A traveler might be led to an unexpected path that revealed hidden beauty or wisdom. A dreamer might encounter visions so peculiar that reflection led to insight, revelation, or invention. Mischief was always paired with learning, and every trick was imbued with subtle meaning, a testament to Hermes' cleverness and his care. Through all these acts, Hermes' presence remained soft, unobtrusive, almost imperceptible. He did not dominate, command, or coerce. He moved with respect for both mortal agency and the natural flow of events. Each dream he touched, each journey he guided, each playful act was part of a delicate balance, one where wisdom and mischief coexisted, where influence was gentle, and where the unseen threads of fate could be nudged without breaking the pattern of life. Even the simplest interactions carried weight. Harder curate, Hermes might gently move a cloud to reveal a guiding star, let the wind carry a whispered suggestion, or create the faintest shift in perception to illuminate a truth hidden from conscious thought. Mortals often attributed these moments to luck, intuition, or inspiration, never realizing the guiding presence of the god who traversed their lives without leaving a trace, shaping events with lightness, care, and playful insight. Hermes' dual nature, mischievous yet wise, playful yet deeply responsible, allowed him to operate across all realms. He influenced not through force but through subtlety, teaching lessons in observation, reflection, and ingenuity. Mortals who created, explored, or navigated challenges unknowingly benefited from his guidance, while the gods relied on his speed, wit, and insight to deliver messages and maintain balance across Olympus and the earth below. In the quiet hours before dawn, when the sky hints at the coming day but the world still clings to sleep, Hermes' presence is most profound. Mortals awaken with clarity, intuition, or inspiration, never knowing why their thoughts suddenly align, their hearts feel lighter, or their choices become clear. It is in these moments that Hermes' work is most visible, yet simultaneously invisible, a paradox that mirrors the delicate balance of night, dreams, and guidance. Through the centuries, the story of Hermes endures, a tale of light footsteps, soft laughter, subtle mischief, and profound influence. He reminds both gods and mortals that the world can be shaped gently, that guidance need not be forceful to be effective, and that playfulness and wit are often as powerful as strength or authority. In every dream that inspires, every intuition that guides, every sudden insight that illuminates, Hermes is present, moving silently, shaping reality with the softest of touches. The messenger of dreams continues to glide across the night sky, unseen yet everywhere, ensuring that the delicate balance between choice and guidance, freedom and influence remains intact. Through his laughter, his wit, his careful nudges, and his soft footsteps, Hermes teaches that even in darkness there is light, even in play there is wisdom, and even the quietest presence can leave lasting impressions across time, thought, and the imagination of all who walk beneath the stars. In the time when the earth seemed alive with the whispers of gods and the gentle hum of nature, there was a musician whose music could move not only mortals, but also the hearts of immortals. His name was Orpheus, a poet and singer whose lyre was said to be enchanted, strings vibrating with the very essence of the world, carrying the power to soothe beasts, charm rivers, and even bend the elements to his will. Orpheus was not only gifted with sound, but with deep sensitivity and understanding of the human heart. He could translate emotion into melody, grief into a tune that lingered in the air, and joy into a harmony that uplifted every listener. Orpheus lived in a world where love was both fragile and enduring, a force that intertwined with fate, the gods, and the very fabric of life. Into this world stepped Eurydice, a nymph of extraordinary grace and charm. She was a creature of the natural world, radiant in her presence, gentle in her demeanor, and captivating in ways that seemed effortless. The meeting of Orpheus and Eurydice was a moment that transcended ordinary encounters. Their eyes met as if the world itself had paused, as if the earth and the skies had conspired to draw two hearts together. Love, immediate and profound, bloomed between them like the first light of dawn cresting over the horizon, delicate yet full of promise. The love between Orpheus and Eurydice was tender, pure, and entwined with the beauty of the world around them. They walked together through forests where sunlight spilled like liquid gold through the leaves, along rivers whose waters murmured in gentle conversation with the wind, and across meadows where flowers bent slightly toward their presence as if acknowledging the bond they shared. Orpheus' music, ever soft and resonant, seemed to echo the depths of their love, carrying subtle messages of longing, devotion, and devotion beyond the power of words. Eurydice's, in turn, inspired Orpheus' melodies, her laughter and grace entering each note, each chord and each rhythm. Together, they were a harmony that existed not only in sound but in the very air, a testament to the enduring, transcendent quality of love. Yet the world, even in its gentlest moments, could not shield them from fate. On a day when the sun cast long shadows over the forests and meadows, Eurydice, wandering in quiet reflection, felt the brush of danger. A serpent, hidden among the tall grasses, struck with sudden and deadly precision. She fell, the life leaving her body swiftly, leaving only the memory of her laughter and the soft echo of her presence in the world. Orpheus, returning to find her gone, was overwhelmed with grief so deep that even the earth seemed to tremble in sympathy. His heart ached with loss, and the music that once flowed freely now became a lament, each note carrying the weight of sorrow, the longing for what was irretrievably lost. Orpheus' grief was not a quiet thing. It radiated outward, touching the mountains, rivers, and forests. The birds fell silent, the rivers paused in their flow, and the wind stilled as if the natural world itself recognized the depth of his sorrow. Driven by despair and undying love, Orpheus resolved to descend into the underworld, a place where few dared to tread, to plead for the return of Eurydice. Armed only with his lyre and the purity of his devotion, he set forth on a journey that would test the boundaries of courage, the power of music, and the strength of love itself. The underworld was a place of shadows, silent rivers, and the quiet murmur of souls long departed. It was not a place of terror alone, but of stillness, reflection, and the slow weight of eternity. Orpheus walked through the gloom, his lyre held gently in his hands. As he played, the soft notes rippled through the darkness, carrying light and warmth into places where even the gods' gaze seldom lingered. His music moved the spirits of the dead, stirring memories and longings, creating a bridge between the living and the departed. Each note was a prayer, a whisper of hope, a plea for Eurydice's return. When Orpheus reached the throne of Hades, the lord of the underworld, and Persephone, the queen who ruled with equal measure of compassion and authority, he did not approach with arrogance or threat. He knelt, his head bowed, and let his music speak for him. The lyre sang with the depth of his sorrow, the purity of his love, and the unwavering hope that Eurydice might be returned to him. The melody was more than sound. It was a force that resonated with the very fabric of existence, bending even the will of gods who had long been accustomed to the inevitability of death. Hades listened, unmoved at first, as the music wove around him, curling into the shadows, touching even the coldest recesses of his heart. Persephone, her gaze soft yet knowing, felt the power of Orpheus' devotion as a force that transcended the usual flow of mortal life and death. The gods, accustomed to the inevitability of loss, recognized in his plea a rare purity of love that demanded recognition. Orpheus played on, his fingers moving deftly across the strings, the lament and hope intertwining in a way that bridged the boundary between mortality and eternity. Finally, moved by the music and the depth of Orpheus' devotion, Hades spoke. His voice, deep and resonant, filled the shadowed halls of the underworld. Orpheus, he said, her love is true, and your music has pierced the very veil of death. Eurydice shall follow you back to the world of the living, but there is one condition. You must not look upon her until you have reached the surface, until the sunlight touches your faces once more. Only then may your eyes meet. Only then may your hearts reunite fully. Orpheus agreed, his resolve unwavering, though his heart quaked with the fear of failure. He began the long ascent, Eurydice following behind him, her presence a quiet warmth, a soft echo of life that shimmered in the dim corridors of the underworld. Each step was measured, each note from the lyre steady, a rhythm that carried them upward through shadows and silence, through rivers of memory and echoes of the past. Orpheus felt her behind him, a gentle warmth, and yet the temptation to glance back was almost irresistible. His love, so profound and overwhelming, urged him to look, to confirm that she was truly there, to see her radiant face and the life that had been stolen so cruelly from him. The journey was long, fraught with tension. Shadows seemed to stretch longer with every step, the silence of the underworld pressing upon him. His music, once vibrant with hope, became a quiet mantra, a tether between him and Eurydice, a guide through the darkness. The faintest touch of her hand, the soft movement behind him, reminded him of the promise that had been given and the fragile trust upon which it rested. Yet in the final moments, when the light of the surface began to glimmer faintly ahead, Orpheus' resolve faltered. Driven by a mixture of hope and doubt, fear and longing, he turned his head too soon. In that instant, the spell was broken. Eurydice, who had followed so faithfully, who had trusted completely in his guidance, was drawn back into the shadows from which they had emerged. Orpheus reached out, his fingers grasping at air, but it was too late. The world, bright and alive once more, received him alone, the notes of his lyre trembling in sorrow, resonating with loss so profound that even the sun seemed to dim in empathy. Orpheus' grief was immeasurable. He wandered the earth, his music transformed from celebration and harmony into laments that carried across mountains, valleys, and rivers. Animals paused to listen. Rivers stilled, and forests seemed to lean closer, as if acknowledging the depth of sorrow that no mortal or god could fully comprehend. Even in the midst of his grief, Orpheus' music held a strange comfort, a reminder that love, though lost, could linger in the heart, in melody, and in memory. Over time, his music became legendary, a bridge between life and death, between love and memory, between joy and sorrow. Poets and musicians would strive to capture the essence of his melodies, yet none could fully match the depth, the tenderness, and the power of Orpheus' song. His love for Eurydice, though marked by tragedy, continued to shape the world, inspiring devotion, reflection, and the understanding that some forces, love, art, longing, transcend the limitations of mortality.